I'm so tired. Hey, and welcome to my channel here at Mia Danielle. For those of you who are new here, I chat all about holistic and clutter-free spaces. And today I just want to talk about something that's pretty relevant to me right now because I've chatted a lot about, you can hear like the cracks in my voice from speaking so much last week. I've chatted a lot about how clutter-free spaces can help with mental health, can help with things like depression and anxiety, and how it can really just be a support system. And I've said many times that this is the number one reason that I started practicing minimalism and or clutter-free living. So whatever end of the spectrum you're on, that's what drew me into it initially, was wanting to have that built-in support system at home. And I've shared before how I feel like the big three reasons to take on clutter-free living are really support, freedom, and personal growth, which I'll put a card to that video up here so that you can check that one out. What I haven't talked about before is how this lifestyle impacts or relates to being an introvert, which I am. And, I found that many people who are really into minimalism, a lot of the people who blog about it, a lot of the people who share about it publicly even, are actually self-proclaimed introverts. And so I think that that's interesting, and I don't think that it's just happenstance either. I think that there's a reason that so many of us who are drawn to this type of lifestyle also happen to be more introverted types of people. And I'm not saying that that's a blanket statement. Obviously, I think that clutter-free living is great for all the people, but I do notice that a lot of people who get really into it are also really introverted. And so I wanted to talk about that today. I'm just coming off of a very public launch for my course, Clutter Cure. So as you can probably hear in my voice, I'm pretty drained. And this is the case every single time I come out from some kind of extroverted style event. There's a reason why, if you've listened to any of my YouTube videos for the past couple of weeks, I've said many times, I only offer these, live promotions once or twice a year, and I'm offering it totally live, which I very rarely do, like once or twice a year. I only do that once or twice per year. I only offer these live once or twice a year, which is something that I only do once or twice a year. And that's because it really does just completely deplete me. And so I like to save those big events, kind of bundle up that energy so that I can show up really well for 2 to 4 weeks per year. And then the rest of the time I can be more comfortable and relaxed and chatting with you like this. And it's not to say that these things aren't enjoyable. I think that there's a big misconception out there with what being an introvert or being an extrovert actually is. A lot of people feel like being an introvert means that you're shy, or being an introvert means that you don't really enjoy being around other people, or that you don't like people, you don't like social situations. You can picture this whole hermit character or persona that a lot of times I feel like is associated with having a more introverted nature. And I have always been a pretty hardcore introvert. And I love people. There are people out there, of course, who are way more well-versed in the differences between being an introvert and an extrovert, but I can give you a superficial level of what it actually means and is. And it really has to do with how you gain your energy. Some people are really energized being in social situations, being surrounded by people all the time. It's like that's their life force. One of my daughters is that way. If she's not around her friends or like in some kind of a social situation for a period of time, she starts getting kind of depressed, kind of sad. And that is very common for people who are natural extroverts. They draw their energy and that life force from other people, from social situations. Introverts, on the other hand, lose their energy. We become drained after large amounts of visibility and social interactions and just being around other people. And it's not that it's not enjoyable to do those things. I enjoy every webinar that I've ever done, and I do them all the time, and I love it. I love the social interaction. I went live on Instagram a lot last week, and I enjoyed that social interaction. It's one of the few times of the year where I really get to have more of a feedback back and forth with students or with, people who are subscribed to my channel or people who are on my email list. And I enjoy that. I appreciate those times for what they are. But I still feel completely drained every time I do it. Every single time I do it, I'm like, oh my God, I need to go take a nap. And that's just because as an introvert, I lose my energy in these social types of situations and scenarios. There is a large percentage of the population who feels and experiences energy patterns in that exact same way. So I thought that being as this is relevant to where I currently am in my emotional and energetic standing, this would be a great time to chat about the benefits of clutter-free living or even minimalism for introverts in particular, and why maybe so many people who chat about clutter-free living and minimalism also do tend to identify as being introverts. And again, I don't want people saying, well, I chat about it and I'm not. It's not a blanket statement. It's just something that I've noticed is a common feature. The most obvious reason is having that haven to withdraw to. People who expend a lot of energy when they're around other people or when they're in social situations, very oftentimes still have to be in these social situations, which means they are often losing or leaking energy. And what do you do whenever you're drained or you're tired or you just feel like completely energetically spent? You withdraw, you go into your comfort zone, and you try to rest and recuperate. That's what I do. That's probably the best thing to do, is to try to regenerate that energy, which is best regenerated when you can rest and you can really just feel connected to something that helps you to recharge. What you don't want is to come back and try to get to a place where you can withdraw and replenish, and the place that you're withdrawing to is a total disaster. There's stuff everywhere, and now you're having to expend extra energy in trying to pick up and maintain your space when you're already spent. I mean, first of all, you don't have the extra energy to do that. That's why you're trying to recharge. That's why you're trying to withdraw and rest. And second of all, it just really makes it to where you're not able to refill quite as much, because now you have all of these visual distractions. You have all of these extra concerns and worries added to your already depleted mental energy. Now, this is at least somewhat true for all people who feel like they're burnout for some reason, or who feel like they're just drained or exhausted for any number of reasons. Having that space to come back to that feels supportive and that's not going to be something else for you to struggle with in addition to the things that you're already struggling with is just really nice to have. But for introverts specifically, because there is so much need to withdraw and to have that cozy haven to kind of come back to, because that is such a regular part of your daily life and the way that you experience and interact with the world around you, and I say you, I'm talking about those of you who are introverts, it becomes even more important and impactful to have the space that you're withdrawing to really dialed in. So that's one thing. And, at the same time, kind of related to that, I found that for myself, once I feel completely socially depleted, like my energy is drained, I feel like I don't even have a voice left to talk to another person, kind of like I look right now, that I become a lot less gracious with the people who are around me all the time. People like my fiance and my kids. My threshold for just common conversation about things that are just, like random in nature, it really lowers down, and I become more grouchy and less sensitive to the needs of other people because I just don't have the energy to put forth to really be invested in those things. And any additional stress on top of that, like things being left out all over the place, people not picking up after themselves, those things just really add to the stressor, and they add even more tension to my relationships with the people who are living in the house with me. So it really helps to strengthen the deeper relationships that I have with those who are truly close to me, who are always going to be on the inside of the shell with me. It helps me to strengthen those by having that space to come back to that is replenishing, that is clutter-free. I'm not struggling so much with the other people in the household. I'm also able to rejuvenate and replenish myself so that I'm more pleasant to be around and able to better strengthen those relationships. And so then it just is kind of a win-win situation. So I do think that it really helps me with the relationships that are truly important to me to be able to have that space for for myself, to be able to have this space that really gets me back to ground zero. And so I think that that's true of a lot of people who are introverts, and a lot of people who are introverts who are also practicing minimalism, that having that space helps them to be able to be the best version of themselves with the relationships that they currently do have going. I also think that there is a little bit of a difference in how an introvert versus an extrovert processes information, how we think through things. I think that there's just a little bit of a difference there in how that happens. And I think that most introverted people, myself included, part of that withdrawing process is an introspective process. So I think that there is definitely a connection between being an introvert and being a highly introspective person, being somebody who needs to just kind of go into your own brain and exist in your own brain for a bit, figuring things out, analyzing, breaking things down, sorting them where, to where they belong, and all of that. That's a very important mental process for me in order to be able to move through anything that I'm planning for the future, or anytime I take out my bullet journal. That's an introspective process for me. And it's really an important process. I can't be out here all the time. I just can't. I won't function. The work that I put out is shoddy at best. Just the type of relationships and interactions that I have with people goes down the drain. So I function better as a person when I'm able to be more introspective and draw into my own mind, not just my own space, where we're talking about withdrawing into your space and really being supportive and recuperating, but also just being able to withdraw into my own mind and be more introspective, and having that space that's clear and that isn't visually distracting and that isn't physically distracting, where I'm having to, again, be out here handling things in this space all the time. It really helps me to be able to withdraw mentally and to just be the type of person that I need to be, and to really just be able to have that clear mind. I've said many times that one of my favorite benefits of minimalism, aside from the big three, I said, support, freedom, and growth, always the big three. But one of my just day-to-day favorite benefits of practicing clutter-free living is mental clarity. To me, that is so important, because I can't stand not having mental clarity. I can't stand having the mental fog. I can't stand not knowing what my next step is going to be, or not knowing what direction I'm going to come into, that whole being on the fence about something. Mental clarity and just having a clear idea, a clear thought, a clear view, all of that is incredibly important to me. And I think that one of the reasons that it's so important to me is because I'm such an introvert, and because I live in my mind so frequently. Most of my life is just spent up here in my own mind, which sounds weird to say out loud, because we all do to some extent, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. And so I would say, for those three reasons, I can totally understand why so many people out there who are chatting about minimalism, who are sharing about their clutter-free spaces and stuff, a lot of them also happen to be introverts, such as myself. So of course, nobody really cares what's going on in my mind all the time, right? The only reason that this is at all worth having a conversation about is in as far as it is applicable to you. And those of you who out there who are introverts, who really can resonate with that, and you feel depleted quite often, maybe doing the job that you have to do every day, or, just functioning as a family member, as a community member, as, a coworker, as another member of society who has to interact with other people, and you frequently feel drained doing that, having that space at home that you can withdraw to, that can help to kind of double charge your recharging system inside of your brain and your body, can be really beneficial. So thanks for joining me in this conversation. I hope that it helps. I hope that you're going to go and make some amazing, sweet, restorative spaces inside of your home right now. And I will catch you back here next week. In the meantime, you should check out this video where I talk about the big 3 reasons to take on clutter-free living.